I want to welcome everybody. Got a good crowd tonight to the first Tuesday meeting, September 7th, 2021. Official time is 6:03. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We get approval of the agenda at this time.
So move.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. We got one commissioner still. Where'd Wendy? Thought she was back. Okay, hold on. Give Wendy time to get in here. She'll be in a second. Mr. Ingram, as soon as Wendy gets here, we'll let you start us off with the invocation and pledge. Started before she got back. I'm sorry. She went to get some water. There we go. We already opened the meeting. We weren't going to start without you. You didn't bring but one piece of candy?
I didn't have one.
All right, Mr. Ingram, you want to start us off tonight?
Please stand and report. Father, thank you. Thank you for the men and women that serve our country. Father, thank you for the men and women that serve our county and for the city of Gray. Father, we ask you to put a hedge of protection around them. Keep them safe, Father, as they deal with individuals, as they deal with COVID, as they deal with just the evil that goes on in day-to-day life. Father, watch over and protect us. We ask you to bless this board with wisdom and guidance. And Father, may all they say and do be pleasing in your sight. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. We've got planning and zoning tonight, and before Mr. Petrowski gets started, if anybody's here in opposition for any of these planning and zoning requests, you will have opportunity to speak.
Chairman, item A, the request for the transitional facility on Regent's Court was withdrawn by the applicant at the hearing and will not be heard by this board. Our first request tonight is item B, request by Russell Newman to allow a family cemetery on Homer Child Road. There's 106 acres there. Family cemetery is permissible on 1 acre. It is a conditional use. Planning Commission has recommended approval of this request.
Mr. Newman, would you like to say anything? Just come forward so we got you on the.
I really don't have much to say, no, sir. Just that we would like to have a cemetery on our property, family cemetery.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Newman? All right. Thank you. Anybody here tonight in opposition to this request? I see none.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Right.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman, our final item for zoning this evening, item C, a request by Linda Gordon Hurst. This is to allow an additional lot on Gordon Road. A portion of Gordon Road is private, and there are approximately 11 to 12 homes being served by that road. They requested creating an additional lot on this road. Because this is a variance, Planning Commission does not have a recommendation.
Ms. Hurst, are you here tonight? If you'd like to come forward, you have anything you want to share with the board?
Nothing other than I'm 68 years old and I live by myself. My daughter and her husband, he's in the service right now. He's going to retire in a year. And I would like them to be able to move back there so that as I get older, there'll be somebody watching out for me.
Sure. Well, any question for Ms. Hurst? Anyone here tonight in opposition to this request? I see none.
Motion to approve, Chairman.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. That's all for planning and zoning. Mr. Wood, have you had anything on your board appointment yet?
I'm waiting on some callbacks.
Okay.
So we are close, but not ready this time.
Okay. If we can get a motion to postpone to the next meeting?
Motion to postpone.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, thank you.
Question, Chairman.
Yes,
I know we're moving forward with this stuff just based on our timelines and our time limits. I mean, is there anything that we can't do with 4 members?
you got a quorum,
Right. That's what I was thinking. Other boards operate with 3.
sure,
If, you know,
sure.
I just wanted to.
You
So
don't
we
want-
go forward.
So Ashley, is there anything that we need to do? I know we talked about setting the term limits on the members. Should we set them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then just have the names filled in by districts, or?
I mean, that's up to you all, and then I would go ahead, you need somebody to at least set that initial meeting to get them together, and then they can
Right.
set their own meeting schedule thereafter.
I just think we need to.
right, we need to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, if there are any decisions that need to be made, we need the 4.
And it's on the
We're on
agenda
the
to
agenda.
assign terms, if you all wanna go ahead and discuss a first meeting and terms.
You want to go ahead and take that, Commissioner Kitchen?
And you
Sure.
can reserve Commissioner Wood's, select, seat
So,
for one of the slots.
Where did we see, we had,
22.
On page 22.
so why don't we just do a random,
They draw them out of the hat.
yep. So are board members 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, is that District 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is the at-large chairman?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you can,
It can
You
be
could-
though, right?
could be, yeah, that's
Okay, it's gonna be.
okay.
Oh, I'm gonna get to 1 year.
Would that,
I didn't like that.
all right, well, let's go backwards then.
I don't care.
Chairman's is the number 1 pick, and then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, does that work?
Sure.
I don't care.
No, then
You know me, eh?
somebody make a motion.
I can't make a motion.
I move that the board member positions be respective to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 year, 2 year, 2 year, 3 year, respective to the districts 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So backwards from.
Yeah, backwards.
Okay.
So that's,
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is a motion.
I need a second.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? None, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Have it. All right, now we move on.
We need to set a time for the first meeting.
Next, second Tuesday,
The second Tuesday
at
at
5 o'clock
5 o'clock.
prior to the, and I'm sure we can put together an agenda for them.
Is it second Tuesday or third? Oh, we're doing it
Third
before.
Tuesday.
Before us, third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday.
Well, right before us, that,
So third Tuesday.
This will be a 5 o'clock meeting for them.
come up this Thursday.
We don't have a work session.
You said the second Tuesday, but
Third-
we're on
third
the
Tuesday.
third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday.
5 o'clock on the third
Excuse
Tuesday.
me, the second meeting, you okay, straighten me out.
5
The
o'clock
second
on the
meeting
third
of this
Tuesday.
month, yeah, okay. And we can have an agenda put together for them to start with, because Mr. Heath said he'd chair the first one to get it started, then they can elect from there, have somebody to take it. He just needed a time.
All right. To be clear, board member number 1 is the chairman's pick, right?
Correct.
The at-large, okay.
right, say that one more time.
So, number 5 is me, number 4 is John's, number 3 is Wendy's, number 4 is Daylon's, and number 5 is chairman's. So we're just going in reverse, 1 through 5.
So,
Number 1, board member number 1, 3-year term is chairman's.
At large.
Right.
At large.
okay.
We reversed it.
Right.
Same.
Board member number 2 is Daylon.
Right,
Board number 3 is Wendy.
yes,
Number 4 is John.
Yes.
And number 5 is me.
yes.
I just went from bottom up.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You had said 5 twice, so I think that's why Jason was.
Close enough.
You got that straight, Jay?
I think so.
Quick motion on the meeting for next week?
Motion for
Meeting
the
next meeting.
first PFA meeting at 5 PM, third Tuesday of, what is this, September?
September.
Yeah.
Can we make sure we provide them with Robert's Rules of Order
And agenda.
and agenda?
And expectations.
Right.
and
Do you
the,
want me to be present for that first meeting?
If you don't
Just to
mind.
help the rules,
Sure.
that's no problem.
All right. I got
that's
a,
my motion, Chairman.
all right, motion?
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? None, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, now we move on. Oh, we got a consent agenda approval for minutes. We had call meeting on August 14th, work session on the 17th, third Tuesday on the 17th, call meeting on the 25th of August, and then September call meeting September 2nd. If y'all had an opportunity to review the minutes, if everything's fine, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Chairman.
Second.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? None, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
I have, all right. We have a visitor tonight, Ms. Kitchens, Walnut Creek Convenience Center issue. Come on forward.
Well, my name is Carrie Kitchens. I live at 3383 Upper River Road, directly across the street from the recycling center. And for about 20 years now, I've been having problems with the dumpsters dumping very late at night, past 11 o'clock, and very early in the morning, sometimes as early as 5 a.m. And I'm just wondering what I can do to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do without me being bothered.
I don't know what the,
I have at least 3 weeks of video this past 3 weeks of them coming as early as 5:19 in the morning and as late as 11:36 at night. Video, my door is approximately 25, 30 yards away from the recycling center. My bedroom window is right next to the door, so imagine having to be woke up at those times of the mornings. I've had several conversations with Matt Attaway, well, I suppose he is the owner now, Advanced Disposal or whatever company he's with.
what are they getting?
I have spoken with several members of the
That would be the recycling.
recycling bin?
center.
Have they got a key to the recycling center to get in there after hours?
I guess so. I'd have to check on that. I didn't know that, but sounds like that.
Are they pulling the roll-offs? Is that what they're doing?
Apparently it's a recycling bin.
Yeah, if it's,
That would make
Is
the
it
most.
Attaway's
all
Picking
all
up the metal,
banging.
or are they picking up cardboard? 'Cause I know
No.
Garrison Road, the cardboard stacked up on top of the dumpster last time I was down at Garrison.
Attaway does the single stream and the cardboard. And so those are the containers that they've set in the convenience centers, just in the last year and a half, when we were able to start doing that again.
I do have a video from one this past Tuesday night at 11:36 at night.
Good
That's the
help.
last one I have.
I don't think we're gonna have any employees working that late.
No, sir.
There's gotta be a contractor coming in there. But my question is, I mean, are they supposed to have a key?
Seems like they need to operate during, when the site is open. That way it's a reasonable hours between 7 and 7.
And Chairman, I know it has to be done more than once a week, but we've talked about this. I mean, every center's closed on Monday. During 8 to 5 would be a great time to make a 9-hour trip to all of our convenience centers and empty them. I mean, if they need it more than that, then we can pick the 2 or 3. I think there's 2 or 3 we got that probably fill up more than once a week. But there's some that just once a week would probably do it.
And they're also closed on Thursdays as well, Mondays and
Right.
Thursdays.
Right,
So that
definitely.
gives them 2 days a week to come between 8 and 5, or 8 and 8 at least.
Right, more reasonable
But
hours.
after 8 or before, 6 o'clock in the morning
Right.
is a little obnoxious.
Sure. Yeah, we can,
And I really would like an answer on how to go about getting this fixed.
right. We're going to check, see, number one, I guess, see if Attaway's got a key and why. And go from there. And I know, the time's not gonna coincide with I know the dump opens at 5 in the morning. I've seen our trucks in there early, but they're generally
Loaded the day before, probably.
loaded the day before. So, we'll definitely check on it.
Yes,
And we've got your number that we can give you a call.
yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Carrie,
I'll call you tomorrow about the other thing.
Gotcha.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kitchens.
Yes, sir.
All right, we move on to new business tonight. Project updates. Trico Go, Mr. Mullis. Fingers crossed it's gonna work.
I've got to switch the audio on here, so y'all give me just a second.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
No, fantastic. Pens. Wow. I was gonna ask, they got these shirts, that's pretty cool. I should have worn my shirt. Extra large.
Thank you, ma'am.
I won one of the originals, like, one
To
of
be honest, I'm not sure that would be good for them, but I would take the.
Thank you.
We're partners, we can do that. Thank you.
I think I called, but I'm not sure who I got.
Hey, Jason,
I got Trey County.
do you remember how to switch
It's
that
gonna
on
be
here?
automatic.
On here, on the laptop? There it is. Did you guys get it? Yeah, okay.
You may have to go to the, where it says mute over there, I think is where I found it.
Well, it seems to be working.
Okay.
I think. Jonathan, can you unmute and talk? Let's just make sure we can hear you in the room.
Sure, I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Sounds
I'm
good.
gonna try
Right here,
one more
good.
trick. I'm gonna turn the laptop around. My camera's not working, so at least you can see some of the commissioners.
That's a scary thought.
I don't think it'll reach.
Okay. Roll that over here.
Yeah.
Oh, and he gets to be scared by sound.
Yeah, turn them
All right,
right
let
away.
me see some of the group.
That's insane.
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You can see those four, at least three of them will be all right.
It would probably be helpful if I shared the document, sorry. Fingers crossed. All right. It's working. Hallelujah.
Look at that technologically advanced folks here.
I think I'm ready to go. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. Take your time.
No. Yeah, if you don't mind if I take you so soon.
Absolutely, because I can't read your lips that way.
I'm not attracted to it at all, but, thank y'all for your time tonight. I first of all want to start by introducing the team I brought with me. First of all, joining us on Zoom from, I think he's in Kansas City or Missouri today, is Jonathan Chambers. He's with Nexon. As you're probably aware, they're our partner that's been managing the process of all of our fiber construction, and he is one of the principal founders of Connexon, so he's going to be available to take questions and make a few comments as well. Y'all don't have to sit all the way in the back. I've got Joe Lightsey. Joe is network administrator for Trico Go. He brings to us about 30 years, she's 20 years, I'm maybe 10 years older, sorry. 20 years of ISP experience with various providers, and it just brings a wealth of knowledge. We're proud to have him. He's been on staff for about 4 months now. Alan Boggs, next to Joe, was with Connexon. He's our local project manager. So the crews that are on site from all our contractors, it's his responsibility to manage that project and get it built. We're going to talk about the details there. Anna Jones is our marketing coordinator for Trico Go. And then lastly, certainly not least, is Ray Greenberg. Ray, I think all of y'all have met, but he's the CEO of Tri-County State. So he threw me up here tonight instead, so I'm going to jump through this. I'm going to try to be as very respectful of y'all's time as I can, but please stop me if you have questions, and we want to have a good dialogue, but I don't want to take up too much time. Y'all, a lot of y'all were there for this day. This was a proud day, but it really was an amazingly short time ago. On March the 5th, we kicked off Trico Go and announced it to the world. We've really only been working on this project for about 1.5 years to 2 years, whenever you consider start was. And I'll talk about that a little bit. As y'all know, Governor Kemp was there, Tim Echols was there, good friend. And of course, our good friend Susan Holmes was there, as well as many of you, to help us with that announcement. We're extremely proud of that. Some background on the project. So SB 2, which was passed in 2019, gave EMC statutory authority to be in the broadband business. This is something that we didn't have. There were a couple of entities, a couple of EMCs in the state that were trying it, but they didn't have the backing. We certainly weren't going to go there. SB 2 gave us that authority, and that was a really significant step. It was a long, hard-fought battle, but we got there. February of 2020, Tri-County EMC completed a feasibility study, and we did that study with Connexon. Jonathan's organization was very helpful in helping us understand what it took to get into this business, but also helping us examine the financial aspects of an undertaking that would ultimately add about 50% of the capital investment that we have in the EMC in 8 years and 2. So this was a big leap of faith for the EMC. Connexon helped us understand the financial aspects of that from top to bottom, and brought back something that our board was willing to accept as favorable conditions to move forward. And we're very proud of that. We're thankful to Connexon there. In September of 2020, we did a survey of our membership. Some of you probably got that survey. About 95% of our respondents said, please, we want you to enter this business. We need internet, we need broadband. Please do this for a variety of reasons, but we were thrilled with that level of support. After all, it's their money. You know, we're a cooperative, we're owned by our members. That was important to have that. In October of that year, we entered the RDOF auction. I'm sure all of you've heard of RDOF. It's the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. We had expected to receive some money, weren't sure how much. We got $1.1 million over a 10-year period. So we hopefully will start receiving that money later this year. We're running out of this year to be later in, but that'll be spread over a 10-year period. So a little bit about the project itself. $47 million investment to build an operational network for the EMC. And what that really means is we'll be able to connect our substations, our meters, our switching gear, our automated reclosers. It's going to greatly enhance reliability, but also our ability to mine and collect data. And, you know, you hear the term smart grid. This is smart grid. This gives us that connectivity to connect all those devices and do things with them we were never able to do before. But it also gives us the ability and a platform where we can use excess fiber in that build and provide broadband to our members. So, you know, I can't reinforce this enough. This project is backed by the equity in the membership of this cooperative. There are 22,000 plus members of our EMC, and we're using their equity in the broadband, the electric distribution network to back this. And that's important. It's important for us. I think it's important for the community that this is a local project. So we're going to build 1,600 miles of fiber in 2 phases in 2 years. When I say 2 phases, those are going to be pretty seamless, and I'll show you how that works. 24 months. That's extremely aggressive. It's quick. 22,000 locations will be passed, and what that means is service availability within 2 years for every member on our cooperative lines. All right, well, let's talk about Jones County impact. Roughly 20 million of that 47 million is going to be built in Jones County. You know, the only funding we got for that, other than that equity for our members, is the $1.1 million RDOF loan. 100 miles of fiber have been constructed to date. We started construction in May of this year. Thank you, Alan. Alan's been hard at work. These contractors have been hard at work. The only thing I tell you is it's not fast enough because we've got to ramp up to 20 miles per week, and we're getting there, and we're proud of that. So when you see all those urban trucks and the roads and at Ingalls getting gas, they're making a local impact, but they're also building a lot of fiber in a hurry. So passings and success to this point, on August 31st, we went live with our first zone. There are 700 passings or locations, mostly down Light and Tie Road, that can receive internet service today right now. and I'll talk a little bit more about that. That last week of September, we anticipate bringing on our Zone 2, which will bring service to an additional 925 locations. To have done that from early May to now, I'm extremely proud of. For the folks out there who are crying, help is not fast enough, and we hear that. So, a little bit of info. I know y'all heard of the presentation from Windstream. I wasn't here, but I watched it online. They had some questions, and y'all had some questions I feel like I need to kind of address, and some of those were about us. And I think it's important to kind of make a distinction of how we're different. So, as I said, Tri-County EMC is a cooperative. We're member-owned, we're governed by a local board of directors, we're managed locally, we're here, we're part of this community. We have been for 80 years, 82 to be exact. One of the questions, and I can't remember who had it, was, are y'all bound by a certain territory? Can you provide service for electricity or broadband inside or outside of that territory? So the answer is yes. For electricity, we're bound by the Territory Act. We can serve any customer within our territory, and then there are certain exceptions, like large loads over 900 kW, that we can serve outside of that territory, but we're definitely bound by that territory. We have, I think, an exemplary record of service within that, and I just can't help but brag about this number. I know y'all can't read that, but I want you to see the magnitude of the whole graph. Those are benchmarks. We participate in something called the American Consumer Satisfaction Index. We do that quarterly. We try to survey 1,000 consumers per year, because we want to know how we're doing. I'll make that a little easier to read. That's us at the top. My pointers don't work on that TV screen very well. 88 is our score. The average electric cooperative is about 83. And I don't want to beat up on George Bauer. They're an excellent utility, but IOUs tend to score a little lower. The average IOU score in the country is 76. Those last two I couldn't help but throw in there, because that's where I don't want to ever go. ISPs in general give really lousy marks for customer service, and I do not ever want to go there. And our members, we've made that promise to our members to not go there. They expect good service from us, and that's what they're going to get. All right, we talked about who we are as an EMC. So who is Trico Go? Well, we're a wholly owned subsidiary. We are a for-profit subsidiary, and that profit impact is important because we've got to pay back a $47 million loan to the EMC to build the fiber. So we've got to be cash flow positive as quickly as we can, and that's important. One of the questions that y'all had was, well, can Tri-County or Trico Go serve outside of our footprint? The answer is yes, we can, absolutely. We are a CLEC, which is a competitive local exchange carrier. We have several other designations, but to answer y'all's question, that's what gives us the ability to serve wherever we want to go, within reason. And within reason goes back to the financial stability of the organization, making sound investments in where we build off of our system. We're not constrained by any territory. The last bullet on there is something that we have probably, from the day we made the announcement until now, did continually. Social media, and phone calls, and events in the office. When are you going to get to me? I'm on George Bauer, I live in this subdivision, y'all are just right over here, are you going to build to me? And the answer's been yes, but we don't know when. And that's a good segue to kind of talk about something, in a few minutes with ARP money and the $5.6 million y'all allocated. This is the phases of the project. Again, this pointer's kind of, it will not hit that. So the blue dots at the bottom of the map are our phase one. That's where we're going to go in the first year of the project. And we started right here in Jones County. We will make our way around to Baldwin and then up into Putnam, and that's where you see in North Baldwin and Putnam the orange dots, which are phase two. One thing that's important to note there is we had to have a logical way to build it. We're building my substation circuit by circuit within the substations. But the other thing that's being built in there is a ring. And it's a ring to provide redundancy all the way around the network, and it'll eventually connect back to Gray to our HUD and Glen to provide that redundancy and resilience as part of that ring. So zooming in a little bit, there are 6,853 EMC meters or locations that we serve in Jones County. Every one of those is obviously going to have internet availability from our project by, early spring of next year, late winter. Those in orange have service now at 700 locations. Again, we're pretty excited about how quickly that got built. Other things that will be served in phase one in Jones County are all of these Jones County facilities. And that's important for, I think, for you guys to know those facilities will have broadband to them just by nature of being served by the cooperative and having access to TriCo. Any questions there? And again, this presentation and that list is in your packet too, so you don't have to memorize any of this. So this is fiber being constructed on Light Side. As I said, we've constructed over 100 miles already. We started that in May. This is a HUD being set. Does everybody kind of know what a HUD is? This is where our direct internet access goes and works through some electronic equipment. We're using something called GPON technology to take that internet access and break it up into pieces that can go to each house. Now, it doesn't necessarily have a dedicated fiber. In fact, we'll serve about 24, 25 homes with each one of those, what we're calling ponds. And that's about the extent. I'll have to get Joe up here if you want to know any more than that. But we have 4 of these HUDs installed already. 3 of those are in Jones County. 2 of those have the electronics already installed in them, and they're extremely expensive, as you might imagine. There's a lot of expensive equipment in there. So this is what we call a NID. This is the point of demarcation on the outside of the house. This was the first one that was installed back in early July. We've got 130 folks in the process of signed up and being installed now, as of last week. And those came in last week, and we're excited about that. We're going a little slow to start to make sure we don't overwhelm anything, and we will slowly ramp up. In fact, today we told everyone in Zone 1, we're ready, come sign up. So we're really excited about that. Okay, the local funding, I want to touch on that a little bit and tell you where we are. Y'all are well aware you allocated $5.6 million for broadband here in Jones County. Jason came to us and said, hey, what can y'all do with this? Could y'all take some areas that are not going to get service immediately off of your system and use this money to help get there? So it took us a little while, but we took those areas, and Jason was very helpful and drew a map of what he felt like were pockets of density. What he didn't know was some of those pockets were already addressed by, we were going to be there anyway. So what we tried to do is identify some other areas outside of our territory that made good sense to try to address, to build into there, and I'll explain how we did that. So we came up with 33 areas that we think are feasible, and I'll show you a little bit about how that took place. So this is just another representation of the meters on our system. So there's 8,600 locations there. I'm going to overlay those blue circles are the areas that Jason identified. The red, blue, and the green dots vanish against those meters are county facilities that Jason also asked us to look at and see if we could address. Some of those have already been addressed in the Tri-County build-out, and I just showed you that list. We'll talk about some of the others here. So these are those 33 areas. And I can tell you that we tried to go everywhere in the county we could. We didn't try to stick close to town. We didn't try to stick out in the hinterlands and the sticks. We tried to cover as much as we possibly could with that $5.6 million. Some of those represent as few as 10 or 15 locations. Some of those represent 250 locations. And y'all know these areas, you recognize these areas. And I think you'll see, Sam, you're a little underrepresented there.
I see that.
Because we cover your district pretty well. There's just not many holes out where you are. One of those, I think East Juliet's you.
Yeah.
So there's about 50 accounts out there at the end of that circuit, right up against the river. That's factored in. One of these that I was a little surprised to see circled as I'm looking through it, because I had to stop and go, where the heck is that? But it's Grizzleville Shortcut, which y'all had to tell me where it was at the Development Authority meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I'm going to use that as an example. So, again, as part of the point, the yellow lines that you see coming in 2 directions are our power lines, which is also going to be where fiber's going to be fed on. This area in the middle, and it's really hard to see, right up in here, that gap in between is George Bauer territory. Now, why in the world there's George Bauer territory out there? I don't know. I feel sorry for them because it takes a while to get out there from Key Street. But that gap has about 40 homes in it. So we literally just, using satellite imagery, measured the distance from the fiber coming from the top down to cover all 40 of those homes along that road. Used our cost, we know to be true, to construct overhead fiber, the cost of the drops and everything to provide for that homeowner. It doesn't include the inside equipment, we're going to obviously cover that. But the cost to get the fiber to those 40 homes, and then we moved on to the next area. And I'm going to, well, maybe I'm not. Yeah, I may have to do it the old-fashioned way.
There you go.
There we go. I was afraid it was going to advance like 50 slides. What are you doing? This is a little closer to home. This is three areas that kind of are separate but really contiguous to each other. This is one time. Highway 129 and 22 is over to the left. This is Creekside, Plantation, and Greenwood. There's 172 homes in there. The necessary amount of overhead fiber is about 46,400 feet. Now that's just the aerial, not the drops. But oddly enough, the cost per passing of those two projects are pretty close together, believe it or not. And it has to do with density, how far the houses are apart, how we address it, is it overhead or underground, and that sort of thing. But I wanted you to understand the methodology we use. So we literally sat and measured every foot of every road in those three neighborhoods and estimated cost to come up with those amounts. In advance. One other thing I want to throw out there, these are the Jones County facilities that would be added by doing this project. So each of those 33 areas would, or one of those 33 areas would address each one of these. And yes, Matt, you're on there. Matt asked me the other day, why don't we get fiber at the golf course? Well, this is how we would propose to get fiber to the golf course. We would come from our facilities on Alton Road and build a couple miles down, go past the golf course to Fox Creek, which has about 20 homes in it. It also has about 40 vacant lots, which I think would then immediately become a value. So just kind of summarize this. I told Jason today I failed because I couldn't spend $5.6 million. When I first looked at this project, I thought, man, we're going to go through half this money and run out, and we're going to have to say, sorry, half of Jones County, how do we pick? And there's still some areas that we haven't gotten to, but the majority of those are either along the mid-county border, where there's already fiber service, or they're a little bit problematic, such that we have to cross some rail lines, some highways that would have to be bored, such as 129, or deal with some significant right-of-way issues. And we'll talk a little more about that in a second. The reason I couldn't spend all your money is proximity to those power lines. I mean, you see how a couple of those areas are immediately adjacent to our existing infrastructure. So we've got to build a very short distance. So what I'm telling you is we can do this very efficiently. I would say that extra $1 million, let's talk about some things. We also haven't done any engineering work. These are purely based on footages and distances. We've got to do engineering work, design work. Connexon will be our provider to do that. After that's done, of course, those costs would need to come out of the $5.6 million. We would have a better idea of, do we have extra money, and what can we do with it from there. There's a window of opportunity. That proximity adds a lot, but there also is a finite limit to what it can be. I told you we're going to build out our total system in 2 years. Some of our circuits have already been designed, but we haven't built them yet. Two of them will have to go backwards a little bit to address. The rest of them, particularly our mixing substation, a lot of those locations like Hampton Lakes, there's big groups of houses in there. oh gosh, the one I can't, Largo Drive, there's a lot of houses in there. Those aren't built into our design. So we've got to go back and do that. If we can build it into our mix and design now, it's easy and we can move fast. And we can use the proximities to our advantage. If we build out the system and try to come back, and imagine us building additional fiber from a HUD on Highway 49 to that location, you're not gonna do that for $4.5 million. You may need to quadruple that number to address all these locations. So that window is there, but it's not gonna be there forever. So there is some need for expediency to do this. One of the things that I think is important is that y'all have a voice in this. I want y'all to look at the list, and we can, if y'all want to have a work session or something and come in and go through it, we've got a mapping tool that some of these stills are out of, got our list. The only thing that we're sensitive about how we share and somehow needing to protect, and Ashley, you and our attorney can maybe work on this, is there is some proprietary information in there with our cost for passings and our cost to build, because those are based on contracts with vendors. So, we'll need to work out a way to protect that. But beyond that, however y'all want to be part of the process to make sure y'all are comfortable with these locations, we're willing to work with y'all on. And then lastly, like I said, acting now and beginning the process as quickly as we can does ensure that, we use that proximity to power lines to our advantage. It also gets non-Tri-County EMC, Georgia Power served customers assured of getting billed ahead of wherever we go next. Because quite frankly, we're gonna build out, we're gonna end in Putnam County. And if we don't do a partnership project like this, where we go from there will be based on a couple of things. One of those is how well our business does, how well we grow, and how quickly we're able to pay off some of the short-term loans that we created and create some capital. But secondly, it's going to depend on density. It's going to be a business decision. So, I can't tell you that it's going to be Grizzleville shortcut. It's going to be an area where there's a lot of density and it's easier to get to without building additional design network on top of it. So, this gives Jones County an opportunity to kind of get ahead of the curve. And I think that's an important, point to make. So with that, I want to turn it over to Jonathan. Is he still there? He didn't fall asleep, did he?
No, I'm still here. Thanks very much. That was very interesting.
Jonathan, I've got the slide. Hopefully you can see my shared screen, but.
I can.
Okay, and I'll just let you dive in.
Thanks so much, and thanks for being willing to listen to me for a couple of minutes. I will try to be quick and happy to answer any questions. So, as Greg mentioned, my name is Jonathan Chambers. I'm a partner and owner of a company called ConnectZone. There's no reason for any of you to ever have heard of us. We work with electric co-ops, and we build fiber optic networks. We've only been around for 6 years now, but we are currently the largest firm constructing fiber networks in the country. In other words, we build more miles of fiber optic networks than anyone in the country. These days we build about 1,000 miles a week. The reason we build so many miles is we only work in rural America. We only build fiber optic networks, and we go where the need is. We only build where people are without. We have, over the years, partnered with rural electric co-ops for a couple of reasons. One is electric co-ops and we share the same ethos. We believe in service. Co-ops like Tri-County Electric were formed over 80 years ago to serve where people lacked electric service, and they're doing the same thing today. And with respect to this project that Greg was just describing, I just want to give you an idea of how extraordinary it is that the board of Tri-County and the membership of Tri-County have decided to move forward and serve themselves. In a way, it's not extraordinary given their history. But I want to give you just a minute of my own history in this to fully explain what I'm talking about. Before I started building fiber optic networks with co-ops, I had spent most of my career in the broadband industry with one detour into public service, working for the Federal Communications Commission. I was asked in 2012 by the chairman of the FCC if I would come and join them and work on some projects that they had. I was made the head of the FCC's Office of Strategic Planning, which was a sort of a fancy title for a fellow who had a group of economists and analysts and engineers reporting to me at the time, and I gave advice to the FCC. I worked on reforms of federal spending programs, principally the reform of the programs to convert the spending programs that had traditionally provided support in rural areas for voice services to change those programs and provide support for broadband services. It's fairly new that the FCC has supported broadband in rural areas. It goes back less than 10 years now. And while there's been an awful lot in the news lately, and Congress has appropriated some money through the American Rescue Plan, and Congress looks like they will appropriate an additional $65 billion through this infrastructure bill that is working its way through Congress. I want to give you a couple of takeaways. The money itself is critical, but it's not sufficient. The FCC has spent over $65 billion in the last 10 years on rural broadband. And you all know that hasn't quite worked. The reason is a couple of things. First of all, the FCC never planned on spending the money on what you would consider broadband today. They spent money on what was considered broadband 10 years ago. They spent money on service that was 4 megabits per second down and 1 megabit per second up. And then later spent money on service that was 10 megabits per second down and 1 megabit per second up. Now the network, the Trico Go, is building and offering service. They offer gigabit service. That is, they're building a network that is built to last and provide service for the next 30, 40, 50 years. They're building a network in the same way they built their electric network, which is to say they're making long-term investments. And that's the first point I'd make to you. Whatever, it's the same point I made to the FCC. I was, again, an advisor, not a decision maker. My advice was, if you're going to invest the public's money, invest it in assets that are going to last for 30 or 40 or 50 years. That is, invest it in things that have a life, an asset life of 30 years or more. These days, that's fiber networks when you're talking about broadband. The second thing that I just want to emphasize here is, you have before you decisions similar to the ones I was advising on a decade or so ago. What should you spend the public's money on? Where should that money be spent? Who should get the money in the case that there are competing interests for the public spending? And there I just want to reflect back on advice I had given the FCC many years ago, which is money should be invested locally if possible. That is, the infrastructure itself should be owned locally. That the best way to ensure that services would keep up with the interests locally would be to have ownership be local. I had a half a dozen ways that I proposed the FCC do that. I will tell you they were all turned down. Instead, what the FCC did in the mid-2010s was decide to give tens of billions of dollars to incumbent telephone companies. In the state of Georgia, among other expenditures, the FCC gave several $100 million, mostly to AT&T and to Windstream, which are the largest telephone companies in the state. Since 2015, the FCC has provided AT&T with nearly $170 million in the state of Georgia, and they provided Windstream with nearly $170 million in the state. The FCC determined that there was a need for both of those two companies to serve about 60,000 locations, homes, and businesses in rural rural high-cost areas. That works out to be about, in the time those companies have been receiving money, that works out to be about $2,600 per home since 2015. Now, if I do the simple math of the slide that Greg had up, the amount of funding for the number of locations in that slide is about $2,600 per location. That is to say, Windstream, AT&T have received from the FCC about $2,600 per location. They didn't build fiber networks with that money. But look, I'm not here to criticize AT&T or Windstream. I believe in redemption. I just think that, redemption without remembrance isn't worth much. I'm here to tell you that the best investment you can make with the public's money is to invest it locally in a network that is owned locally. If you look back at the slide that Greg had up as to the locations, the meter locations of Trico Electric, which are the places they're building a fiber optic network to that will be served by Trico Go. Those meter locations represent members of the cooperative, member owners of the cooperative. The cooperative is owned by its members. That is to say, and Trico Go is a wholly owned subsidiary of the electric co-op, which means that the owners of the network, the fiber network, are the same people that own the electric network. They're the residents of Jones County. Now, the people who live and are served by Georgia Power don't own Trico Electric, but they're the neighbors, and the vast majority of the county is served by Trico Electric, which is to say, mostly this network that Trico Go is building is owned by the same people who live there, which is the same approach that was taken by electric co-ops, electric membership corporations starting in the 1930s. If you invest together with Trico Electric, you're effectively giving the money to the residents of the county so that they will own the network. You don't know if you give the money to not a private company, but a publicly traded company or a different kind of company. Well, that ownership structure is shareholders or other kinds of owners. This is the one opportunity you have to allow the owners of the network to invest back into the same people who live in the area. Those will be the same people who live in the area now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now. That is to say, whoever lives in the county will own that Trico Go network for as long as the electric co-op exists. That, to me, is the one difference between what Trico Electric, Trico Go is doing, and any other kind of investment. It's the same thing you see in the map of other EMCs across the state. EMCs are investing in fiber networks all across the state because they recognize that just like the 1930s, if they're going to get fiber services to their members, they have to do the same thing that they did when they were formed. Again, I'm thrilled that you all are considering this. I think you do have an opportunity over the next couple of years to get all of your residents served with the highest quality service, and that's pretty special. And all credit to Ray, who's there in the room, I guess, and his team, because they've taken on a significant project where they got to work a lot more hours. They don't get paid any more to do it, but they do it out of the same basic, the same basic reason they were formed to begin with, to serve the residents of the county, to serve their members, because they're one and the same. Thanks very much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Jonathan. So I'll wrap this up real quick because I'm taking a lot of your time. I do have one to ask tonight. It's the next item on the agenda, so I guess I can't bring it up until you do.
Go ahead, you're fine. Take
We are
physical
not
recovery
gonna
fund letter.
ask y'all to apply for money on our behalf. A, we don't need to. We're going to apply for the money ourselves because we're eligible. Where the legacy providers are not. You know, they need somebody to take on that application for them. However, what we would ask y'all to do, and there's a copy of the letter of support in the folder that we passed out, we're gonna try to get a letter of support from each of the counties that we serve to attach to our application. And there's like a 7 template letter in there for y'all to use as an example of, please feel free to make up your own, but I would ask that y'all would help us with that application by giving us your support for it. And with that, unless y'all have questions. Yes, sir.
Long time no see. How you doing? I saw Joy Cliff Circle, which is literally one street behind me. And I am a Tri-County customer, have been for a number of years. I'm one street over. Am I out of that zone? Because I know I've applied, but I've never received any feedback.
You're a Tri-County customer?
I am.
You are gonna get fiber regardless.
So somewhere down the road, because it doesn't give me a date on the system.
You are, help me, Joe and Anna.
Next door to Dr. Gray.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which circuit that is, and it's going to be.
They were gonna skip by your house and keep
It's been happening. I still don't have high-speed
Both your
internet.
neighbors will have it, but,
That's exactly what happened now.
I'm trying to remember which circuit that is, which substations to serve you, but I'll tell you what I'll do, as soon as I get home, I'll look it up and I'll email you.
I appreciate it, because off a dial-up sucks, but
I've heard that, and we're trying to fix it.
I appreciate you.
But yes, and I'll, repeat, if y'all want to have a dialogue with this process and make sure that those are the locations that y'all really want to go, we're more than willing to do that. Just actually, if we can figure out a way to have a conversation, because, eventually money's got to come in
Right.
to the conversation, and there's some proprietary stuff there. It's a trade secret, I don't
Yeah.
want to do that publicly. Our competitor wouldn't, and we wouldn't. But, any other questions?
And not to be self-serving, the folks out Highway 57, which I think are partly Tri-County and probably more Georgia Power, and I couldn't see the map. Is Highway 57 included? I know we're going to Grizzleville, but I wasn't sure how you were getting
I
there.
think it's because I stopped Street Shield. Sam, you're good.
If our lines are there, it will be served, and then the adjacent areas, I think that was in one of the areas Greg had listed.
Yeah, because if you look at the list of areas that are going to be served with the Tri-County project, Massical Road Pump is one of those, Grizzleville Park is one of those. That subdivision further up on the left, its name escapes me for the moment.
That's the one.
It's part of our existing system.
Okay.
We go up into Donna Acres and then back up 57 towards Macon to that first couple roads on the left, and I cannot remember the names of those either.
Okay.
If there's pockets for power customers in it, and we can look at addressing as part of this. Like I said, I didn't spend all the money, so to speak, in my estimates. There's some work left there. Our hesitancy with some of those, and Jason and I met, talked about it, is there's some rail crossings, there's some, Chris, I'll give you a good example. DOT cut your neighborhood in half. There's 40-something homes on the other side of the bypass.
I don't get it. I saw north, I didn't see south, that's all.
Oh, no, you're in there.
Are the lines overhead, or are they being bored?
It really depends on the subdivision. We did it in an economical way. And what we may find when we do the engineering work is that we guess one way, and engineering says, no, you really ought to do it the other way to be more efficient, and we'll just switch. But that's why we do the engineering work.
But DOT and the railroad sometimes dictate how we're going to cross their,
Yeah.
facilities.
So, yes, Stone Gables is in there. We have the line that feeds this facility, comes across there. We serve, I think, 26 lots out of those in Stone Gables. The rest that are Georgia Power are in that plan. But to get to the other side, the only one we can do that's for the bypass, and there's $25,000 or $30,000 cost to do that. So, we want to be kind of judicious with where we do that, and it's the right thing to do. And like I said, I don't think this ought to be a political process of who gets service and who doesn't. I think, it needs to be based on math and science. But I would suggest, like I said, if we can figure out a way we can sit down and go through the numbers and go through the map, I'll be glad to do it. I'll bring whatever staff we need to help.
I'm keenly interested in District 4 just because I know there are some great pockets of density, and of course, if you're passing by, it just makes sense to pick them up. And then we know we have some people that are out in the far rural ends I hope that they're customers, because then it just makes life easier. But if they're not, I hope there's some opportunity.
Well, I'll give you a good example. I think these are in your district. Fox Road, Market Drive, Hampton Lakes
Yep.
are all in what appear to be the fringes of served, unserved.
Mhm.
You know, as you move in closer to Macon, they're in the served area.
Right.
And they also probably have existing fiber access. And we felt like it was more judicious to spend the money in areas where folks couldn't get it than to just be another competitor.
Right. Mountain Springs Road, that kind of.
Yes. Now,
Okay.
a lot of, when you look down Mountain Springs, Jason had sort of a couple of pockets, we're already there.
Good.
But if we find others, we've missed something, let's figure out what to jump on.
Awesome. Thank you.
You know, and honestly, one of our biggest challenges, Jason, I'm talking about today, is the animal shelter. It's a couple of miles in either direction, and it's 1 meter on that side of the road. The other meters, or the other locations are across railroad tracks on the other side, on Olds 11. Do we build 2 miles of fiber just to get to one facility? You know, my mind says, well, no, that's silly, but I don't know what y'all's needs are at that facility, you know, and how much they need it and what they have. So again, that's an area where we ask for y'all to help us with that.
I think I think that's where the continuation of planning and strategic planning and discussions and meetings with us is very helpful. I will say this and brag on them a little bit, Chairman. I've always bragged about Tri-County being in the forefront of communication piece, you know, and on the front end, whether it's upcoming events or whether it's power outages or storms or even a project like this, just having the wherewithal to have a link that you can go to and say, okay, when is it coming to me? When, you know, everything's about when is it coming to my house?
Sure.
And you talked about the East Juliet residents, you know, they called me and said, well, when are we gonna get fiber out here? They've been needing it for years. And I said, well, you know, we got this coming and look into it. Here's the website, and they look it up and they're like, all right. Well, so, you know, that communication piece is awesome. So y'all did a great job with that.
Thank you.
I think yeah. That's-
Greg, could I just jump in for just 10 seconds, 30 seconds?
Chairman, is that?
Yeah, absolutely, come on.
You made it clear, right, that had the state not postponed the application date, we would have applied for funding at the end of August, we being Trico Go. So we will be applying for funding at the end of October. It gives us a little more time to work out some of what you're talking about now. That is, we could make sure that everything in the county is covered when we apply for state funding. And I know Windstream and AT&T have been around the state asking counties to join with them. We'd rather not compete in an application, but I just want to be clear, we will be applying for funding for this state program, and we'll use the couple of months to make sure that we cover everything that you all need covered in the county in that application.
Basically, you just need the support letter from us, not
That's,
the other
I'd
group.
like to have it tonight, the application not due till, as Ellen said, in October, so, you know, just whenever y'all can. And y'all
But the other group, we were actually applying for the grant, correct? Am I correct on that?
Isn't that right? When
Yeah, that's
the
okay.
request,
Yeah.
the other request for us to apply for it.
For us to apply for
No
it, get,
cost.
you know. I don't know, I like this a lot better. Locally owned, and we're not applying for the grant, we're actually asking for support. What y'all's wishes?
The way this state broadband program works is a not-for-profit can apply directly to the state for grant. It doesn't have to go through the county. It's not just broadband, it's lots of programs.
Something y'all wanna make a decision on tonight?
Of
or-
course. We're here, right?
All right, I'll need one motion
You
away
don't have a
from.
motion to approve support for Trico Go?
Second.
Second, we got 3 seconds, so I don't, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it, that was easy enough.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Like I said, I'll listen out for you or
Sure.
Jason as far as, if y'all want to schedule a meeting, or I know only where phone, just holler and we'll be here.
I just like the local ownership myself. I mean, just think our community's gonna have a stake in this and, definitely.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Greg, I'll get in touch with you, okay? I'll get in touch with you.
Okay.
We appreciate the great input.
Maybe this later, strike it now. We can go ahead. Okay.
Thank y'all very much. Great presentation.
Thank y'all.
We
Move
didn't
on,
even tell them
Bob.
goodbye,
Greg.
just shut them down. If you didn't tell them goodbye, just cut them off.
Max, you want to go ahead and start yours while Greg's taking the stuff down? You want to go and start? Thank you. Golf course.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Tonight I'm coming to explain a need for a full-time staff member, but also kind of break down, if you'll bear with me, how I want to go about doing it. About a year and a half ago, meaning you, approved me to have some part-time staff members be hired at the golf course to do groundskeeping work. And we did that. We filled the spots, have been working. But the challenge has been getting the individuals to work the amount of hours that we need to get the jobs done. Not a knock on these individuals, but these persons are retired, and this is their, just kind of a supplement, kind of a job for them. These are daytime jobs, early in the morning, up until about 1 or 2 p.m. So it's not really jobs that can be filled by high school kids or even college kids for that matter. And the average hours they've been getting, one of the employees, I went back the last 12 weeks and did some research. One of them's averaging 10.25 a week, another one's 10.10.5 a week, and another one's just 10 a week. And so each one of these slots, were allocated up to 29 hours. Not to get too in depth with their personal information, but the positions pay, roughly right at $20,000 apiece, if they fulfill the 29 hours per week on average. So the challenge again has been not being able to keep up with the workload, and with the golf course growing, we getting more efficient with our chemical application and our herbicide, pesticides, our aerifying and all that. We're getting healthier, which means grass is growing better and better, which makes it even more challenging to keep up with when you don't have adequate hours being worked. And again, it's not a knock on these individuals. They do a good job when they're there, just I need them there longer. So going through this, beating it back and forth, trying to figure out the best way. Could we hire more part-time people to try to fill the void? Yes. That creates another logistical issue of timing and who works what day, who works what time. And if these individuals say, well, I want to work on Tuesday, no, I want to work on Tuesday, then neither one of you work on Tuesday, and then it becomes a logistical issue. And then you got multiple people trying to share the same slot. Instead of, it just becomes an employee who wants what day, what time slot, and all that kind of stuff. Going to a full-time position, I know the compensation package comes into play where it doesn't come into play with part-time positions. As far as salary line item, what I was wanting to do, and my request tonight is that we got 3 part-time slots. We'll keep one, combine 2 to make a full-time slot. So you're looking at a little over $40,000 if you combine 2 of those slots together of payroll salary. A full-time position that would do this job would be right at $25,000. I don't know the numbers exactly because it would depend on their experience and all that, where it falls into the new pay structure that you have. So I don't know exactly. I just know it would be right around the 25 mark. And of course, then you got the compensation package involved in there as well. We would keep the last part-time slot we would keep. As you see the hours here, each one averaging right at 10 hours apiece, puts you at the 30-hour mark, which is allocated, that position is allocated for 29 hours. So I wouldn't get rid of any of the 3 we have. I would structure them to share the 29 hours. If one of them decided to vacate on their own, so be it. We'll split it between whoever's left. And so no one's getting terminated, but it's easier for me to structure 3 people into one thing than it is to try to get 6 people by hiring more people to fill these slots, if that makes sense. So what I'm asking tonight is to take 3 part-time positions, down to one part-time and create a full-time slot. So I'd have one full-time, one part-time for this position. Then we would go out and advertise for a full-time employee. What this full-time employee would do is the same tasks and responsibilities, but they would do it every day, Monday through Friday, from 7 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so by doing that, we got more consistency of getting the job done versus coming and going and not getting the hours in.
What's this job?
Is groundskeeper. So at the golf course, we have employees that cut the fairways and cut tee boxes and greens. We utilize part-time people to try to cut rough and common areas. That's where the challenge is the part-time people keeping the rough cut and the common areas cut. Does that affect play? Some, yes. When someone really hits it bad, it affects play. If they hit it good, it doesn't. But it really, really affects cosmetically the appeal of the golf course, which in the golfing world, the appeal of the golf course really affects if that person wants to come back and spend more money or not.
You're gonna take 3 part-time people and use one part-time position's hours,
Yes, sir.
and then you're gonna eliminate the other.
Well,
Other
take the other 2 and make them a full-time slot.
Yeah, but you just have basically 29, 30 hours for 3 people to share.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I will say that one of the biggest complaints we had when we met with some of the groups out there at the golf course was the inability to maintain, because, and I understand what Matt, you focus on greens and then fairways before you do the rough and outside of that. And that was one of the biggest complaints we heard was, they're always working on the greens and the fairways. And, we're not professionals, so if we hit our ball out of the fairway into the rough, we lose more balls than we know what to do with. And so, that was an issue for a lot of them, that we need to cut them a little more often. And we sat down with Matt and he showed me his schedule of maintenance and groundkeepers, and there just wasn't enough hours in the day or men on the field, on the course to actually cut it any more times a month. So we were at a point of, okay, you either add hours, add people to get the job done. And I think that's, I've talked to him about it, and I think that's one of the issues that he's having is we added more people, a year or so ago, we added another or 2 more part-time people. Well, if you got 30 hours roughly with 3 people, 90 hours, and you're only working 30 hours a week, you're still not getting those 3 people that he needed to get the grass cut. So I see where he's coming from. I'm a little concerned that we are going from a part-time without the benefits, because that benefits is a huge cost now, and as we go and add 2% and 2 more % every year, and insurance and all that, that's a big deal. I'm kind of on the fence there whether I like the idea or if there's another route to go. I understand his need and I support that. I just don't know if the full-time or if there's another way to get that job done with part-time people, if he's having a hard time getting anybody to work.
Next question is being able to find employees, because, I think we got every department in this county needing help right now. I know many folks you can't go to and talk to them that's not sitting there begging for employees. What's the board want to do?
I don't know of an entity or a company that's not shorthanded. And it's a sign of the times. And sometimes you just have to double back and do more with less. It's unfortunate, but for instance, DOT in this county, they have 2 people, supervisor and 1 employee. And supervisor was sharing with me, he says they are so far behind. And they've raised the pay, still can't get people in the door to stay.
Matt, let me ask you this, if you go to a full-time person and then that person, either you don't fill the position or the person, fills it for a short time and leaves or whatever, you have that vacancy. that's gonna really hurt you with not having the two part-timers. You got one part-timer in an empty position, if you can't fill it, you know, because then you don't have two part-time slots to try to just call somebody in.
Right. We actually have someone that is interested in the job. Shannon, he's filling another part-time slot that we already had open. We're waiting on some background and some drug tests and stuff to come back. So I have an individual that I could put into this slot to do this. Because he's going to be hired, assuming he passes his background check and drug test. But he'll be doing, you know, a different type of groundskeeper work as a part-time employee, more in the evening. So instead of him coming on board to do that position, you know, he could fill this slot.
Is that one of the three positions that you got here, or is it
No,
just
sir.
another part-time that you can't get enough people to
Correct.
work? Part of me thinks that's more of the problem than whether it's part-time or full-time, is you can't get people to, you can't get enough people. Well, you know, so I got 4 part-time and only one of them really.
Sound like me, you got 3 part-time, want to work 10 hours a week. You know,
Because they're scheduled, they can work up to how many hours a week?
29.
Each one of them.
And they're only getting 10.
Is it 10 of their choice or 10 of what they're scheduled?
Choice.
Because they're retired.
Because they're retired. This is a supplement job.
That's a tough one. I don't know that, I mean.
But
I
it's
just don't know that-
challenging to find someone to work 7 a.m. to 1 or 2, 3 in the afternoon that's not older or retired.
Oh, I
Because you
get
can't.
you. Split that time in half, and half in the morning and half in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm torn on that. I mean, I just don't, I get it that a full-time person, you're gonna attract a different employee than the retirees that are just wanting 10 hours, 12 hours, and those are also can be very choosy on what they want versus what they need. And somebody looking for a full-time job understands the hours are 8 hours a day.
And this particular duty that these gentlemen do, it's important that they're there in the morning and midday so that they're at the course with our superintendent versus nights when he's not there. It's important that they're there so that they can get the job done that he needs to have done.
Answer this, Matt. Can one employee, full-time employee, do the same job that 2 part-time people do? I mean, because if 2 part-timers are riding lawnmowers at the same time, you know, one
Right.
full-time guy can't ride but one lawnmower. He can't.
Right.
Or,
1.5 can. That's why we would still have the half. Yes, sir.
so he just cut more grass per day.
Yes, sir.
you're going to be riding all day.
All day.
You want to drive a train?
Hey, I'm only driving Sundays when I'm not busy. So, I'm just, you know,
There's your chance that you want to drive some.
no, not quite ever.
Ain't that big enough, is it?
Yeah, nah, I'm gonna go fly an airplane. So, for me, it's simple. It's just money. So if the money is there, to me, it's just a no-brainer. Yes. I don't golf. I've been out to the golf course 5 times in 20 years, but I know we've made progress, right? And I don't want to lose that, right? For those that go out there for the intrinsic benefits that it offers to the county. I see the value in that, and you know, obviously, if the hours are allocated to me, it's up to Matt to make sure that it happens. I know why we use part-time people, but if part-time people aren't getting the job done, then we have to do something different. Because there's a huge investment out there. And I used to harp on it every single year. I said, this year, man, I'm not going to say a bad word about the golf course. So I'm going to help you out, brother. If that's what you want to do, by all means, you have the hours, do it. Mr. Chairman, I move that the golf course be allowed to combine the positions into a full-time position. Because then if he doesn't do it and it doesn't look right next year, I'm going to talk about it.
As long as we don't increase the budget. So
As long as we don't increase the budget, absolutely.
I'll second that, Chairman.
All right, any more discussion? None, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I just want before and after pictures, Matt.
I'm fine with it, just for the record. All right, you got, you're up again, employee appreciation.
Yes, sir. So, after speaking with Mr. Jason and Ms. Shannon, I think employee appreciation, the best thing to do this year is to leave it as scheduled as years past. So we'll have the employee appreciation on November the 10th, upon your approval. November the 10th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Offices would close at 10 a.m., come over, we would have games, fellowship. We would eat at 12, from 12 to 1 we would eat. 1 p.m. everybody would be dismissed by their department heads to go home. We'd have it here at the Government Center as we have the last several years. And then we'd be off for Veterans Day on Friday, and then on Thursday, and then Friday you would return to work as normal.
Am I good with that? Somebody put that in motion so we can,
I make a motion that we have the County Employee Appreciation Day on November the 10th.
that was at 10?
10th, yes, sir. That's Wednesday, right
A
before Veterans Day.
Wednesday.
All right. I got a motion, I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? None, all in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? I got it. I'm adding it on my phone while I'm thinking about it.
10 to 1.
Ms. Wagner, you've got COVID pay time off, mask, and vaccine.
I've had several department heads and employees come to me to see if anything was gonna be done like we've done in the past about mask mandates, vaccine mandates. I know we did the pay time off before. We have several employees out sick, family members sick. We've had several employees who have lost multiple family members, and it's not getting any better. So I'm just asking, is there anything you want to do?
Do we know what our vaccination rate is, employee-wise?
Do we know if our healthcare provider is offering the incentive like there are across the state?
Not that I know of.
I know that the nursing homes mandated their employees, but no incentives to vaccinate.
I
Right.
got an email the other day that I'm trying to find that from the Bibb County attorney that they were using some of the COVID money to offer employee incentive payments to get vaccinated. I was trying to pull up the email. and
What
see.
about the ones that's already vaccinated?
Something you all would decide.
I mean, personally, and I,
Bibb County's not giving a retroactive, that's for sure.
I mean, I'm gonna be, and I'm not trying to be insensitive, and this is all real. I still believe masks and vaccines need to be a personal choice, not mandated. If there's people, like myself, vaccine, I do not feel comfortable with it, and there's just as much pros and, it's just, I don't know what to believe at this point, so I think the mask and vaccines ought to be a personal choice. And I know everybody's feelings aren't the same, and but that's where I'm at on it.
That's a tough one. I think outside of certain work environments, I would agree with that. As a teacher in the school system, personally, I'm offended that kids are allowed to come in the building without a vaccine if I have to be strongly encouraged to get a vaccine. It's kind of weird for me, for lack of a better word, that 700 kids can come in the building without a vaccine, but a teacher should. With that being said, short of people who have direct public contact, because that's the greatest exposure. That's exposure for them and the public. Freedom of choice, I think, plays a very big role in it. If I'm out there public works and I'm working on the street, I'm not as concerned about it because that's my homogenous group. But anytime someone walks into this building off the street, it poses a risk. We can't control that, so then you have to protect your employee. So I'm a fan of having masks inside the building to protect employees because we have an aged population. But if departments don't want to enforce it themselves, then I couldn't mandate it on the people, if that makes sense. And You know, if I didn't have a brother who had a grandmother who was 92 years old and asked me to come visit her, I wouldn't have got the shot, because I'm not a fan of vaccines for a number of reasons. But I can tell you, my brother's 92-year-old grandma is the reason why I got a shot, so I'm going to go see her. And beyond that, I think it's a tough call. We have some departments here with people who have been sick, ill, and have lost people. And I don't want to make it a department head choice because it's really on us. You know, so here we have 1/3 of the group here with masks for a reason.
Well, my father died from COVID 6 months ago.
Amen.
And I'm not saying it's not
Yeah.
real. I mean, I know people that's had the shot and sick as a dog.
Amen.
You know, so I mean, I'm still on the fence, and I mean, but I think it ought to be my choice whether I have it or not.
And I don't want to put this pressure on Shannon or anybody that works inside the building, but having had that experience, you know, it makes it real personal. I went to 6 funerals last year, and from 29 to 92 was COVID. My family is a little different to the idea of getting the vaccine now. But inside this building, how do you feel, if you're okay with sharing that? Do you think it should be employees?
Well, most of our employees are wearing masks. I think because now we have so many people in our community our age that are dying now, and we have several employees who have had multiple family members die. Our employees are scared, and I think they are trying to protect themselves. I mean, but it's different when it's us together wearing our masks. When we have people coming in nonstop, you know, Mr. Jimmy almost died last year from COVID, and I'm sure he got it from here. I mean,
Yep. And I mean, you work in the building. I don't work here, so I'm more concerned about how you all feel being inside the building, not just together, but with everybody else that comes in the building. If you all want it, I'd happily support it. If y'all don't want it because you're not going to support it independently as departments or collectively as a whole.
yeah, most of our employees are wearing masks without anybody telling them to, especially the employees that deal with the customers the most. We are spraying and cleaning every day, but we have a large amount of employees who are out sick.
And then the only reason why I bring that up, Chairman, is, you know, GPB had a special episode on. They talked about the cost, right? So I don't know what it costs to buy a mask for everybody, and I don't know what it costs to have somebody vaccinated. But I know they talked about the physical cost of someone being in the hospital was upwards of $50,000. That's our healthcare plan. So we want to talk about $1 million. That's 20 people.
And that's where I guess bothers me the most is I agree 100% with the chairman. I don't believe that we should even have the authority to mandate anything. That's a personal right that I think it goes way above and beyond. But on the other hand, we also don't have a right to put our employees at risk. And so, to me, when we made the decision last time, when constitutional officers decided to wear a mask, we made masks mandatory for the building. So, to me, we also had an option. You didn't have to if you're adamantly not going to wear a mask, you didn't have to come in this building. You could have done your work online. I mean, as far as getting your things you need online. But when you start talking about the health side of it, you know, unless you just discount the science and the numbers and think that whatever the hospitals or doctors or whatever is putting out is a lie. If you believe the numbers that the hospitals are putting out, 97 to 99% of the COVID patients that are in dire conditions are unvaccinated. I don't have a problem. I was vaccinated when we first were able to do it because the schools highly recommended it because of the environment that we're in and students that weren't able to be vaccinated. So I don't think there's an all-in-one answer. It's, you know, all the things protect a little bit. Do I personally wear a mask less because I'm vaccinated and because I've had COVID? Yeah, because I think I'm probably more immune than most people that hadn't had it or hadn't had a vaccination. But is that kind of silly to do that because then you're taking one of your protections away? I don't know. I do believe this 100% though. Right now, a COVID shot is free, a test is free, and pretty much you can get masks donated. FEMA, GEMA, federal government, anybody, you'll get masks anywhere. So all that stuff is free. And we also know there's no such thing as a free lunch. So somebody's paying for it. We're all paying for it. And eventually it's going to come down to, if you're not vaccinated, we're not going to pay for whatever risk was involved with not being vaccinated or masking or whatever. I do believe there's going to come a point where, okay, everybody's had a chance to make your decisions. Decisions have consequences. And there's going to probably be if you were vaccinated, wearing a mask, did everything right, and you still catch it, and you're in the hospital, there's probably going to be some kind of insurance policy that says, we got this. And I say this all the time. They don't give free lungs to cigarette smokers. They just don't do it. And nobody can tell you can't smoke. Nobody can tell you better smoke. But if you're smoking and you catch cancer, lung cancer, they're not going to donate you. I mean, somebody might, but they're not going to give you free medical attention, or they're not going to give you a free lung for it. So there are consequences with it. And right now, we pay higher premiums, and even an employee pays higher premiums if they smoke. That's not saying they're banned from smoking. It just says if you're going to do that and it's known to be a risk. We're, as in every taxpayer, is footing the bill for that risk. And so I see that coming.
Isn't it Delta that just raised their insurance premiums for
Right.
unvaccinated?
Yeah.
Yep, $200
Yeah.
per pay period.
Yeah, and it's just like the smoking, what is it called when you surcharge, on your insurance if you're a smoker, and you get it's not that you charge that, it's just here's your rate, and if you don't smoke you get a little lower rate. I think that's the same thing coming with vaccines and stuff like that. So I'm with Dale. I know if we have an obligation to protect our employees, for sure. We can't control what the public does, and we're open to the public. We got to make a decision. If our employees are not comfortable and there's a risk there and we don't mitigate it, shame on us. But I have a real issue with mandating that our employees wear a mask, or anybody wears a mask. It's just that's a tough decision, but I'm with you. I don't know how we figure that out with employees.
I don't know. There's really, and truth, there's no right answer.
There's not.
That's correct.
John and I talked about this earlier today, and I mean, I don't know. There's no right answer. I talked with a gentleman today, and his doctor told him, he says, you don't need that vaccine. I haven't taken it, and he got talking about the complications with his health. And he said that what they were worried about, and the doctor said there's really nobody knows the right answer. But with this particular gentleman, his doctor said, I would not advise it because some of the side effects they had that we really don't hear a lot of would be detrimental for his health, that he couldn't, said, I really don't advise it. So, I mean, there's no right answer. I mean, I don't care what we do, what decision we make, we're going to be wrong. And that's the bad thing about it.
I just hope that whatever decision we do come up with, we do it jointly, and we back our employees on it too.
Yeah.
And not give that false hope of, well, if they don't wear their mask, there's nothing we can do to them. If they don't wear their mask, if we mandate it, but to come into this building, they're not allowed into this building. We've got to give that, stating from where I work. I mean, I can't make a child get on a school bus with a mask on. I can request, but I can't mandate it.
CDC still.
We disagree.
Absolutely. Can't even come in the building.
They can't get on the bus, can't come in the building.
Nope. When we had this mandate back earlier this year, we had a gentleman come and speak who was basically thrown out of the building for not wearing a mask, and there was employees walking in through this building. So it's a slippery slope and a very delicate moment there of, well, that, he basically pointed out, that employee is not wearing a mask. Well, he doesn't have to. His supervisor said he didn't. Okay, so
Right.
that special whatever he's receiving, he doesn't have to wear a mask, okay, even though it's mandated. And I agree with Chris, my body, my choice on the vaccine, and I know of several doctors who have basically said in their office, I'm not taking the vaccine, I'm not recommending anybody in my family to take a vaccine. My office is not administering the vaccine because of, it's been out 6 months, or they've researched it 6 months, or whatever. And I have a whole list of other health conditions going back to 1900. Some have vaccines, and some are still, they're scratching their heads trying to figure out a vaccine and a cure. Most vaccines are animal tested before humans. This one, animals got spared and humans are the test. I'm just being frank about it.
This is true.
I mean, they test cosmetics on animals before they do humans. So it's very real. I've known people that have taken the vaccine. They're not here anymore. 10 days, they're in a coffin. And then I know people that are not vaccinated. Very unfortunate. Funeral yesterday, a young man my age, not vaccinated, passed away. So it's a.
I think that's what makes it so tough. It is a personal decision, and it's personal to all of us, how we feel about the employees and how we feel about what goes on here. And it's just like Daylon said, it's much more personal when it hits home, when it's your family member. And I don't know how many times I've heard, no matter what decision you make, somebody says, if it was your family member that you lost, would you still make that same decision? That's tough. That's tough to make a decision, because we are taught as elected officials, leave your feelings out of it. And this is one you can't, because people are dying. And you can't leave your feelings out of it. You have to base it on the science, and you have to go with what you believe is right. I'm 100% against mandates, but I fully support vaccines, masks, everything you can do not to catch it. So, that's a tough place to be in.
We talk, what's the board's wishes?
I'd like to see us
If you're sick, stay home.
talk to the employees
People are coming out,
and
they're sick.
see if this is what the employees want. If they're not comfortable and they want masking, then we do it. Again, we would be mandating mask inside the building. We're not mandating anybody their personal choice, in my opinion.
We're clarifying that if we mandate masks inside the building, everybody wears a mask inside the building. That's the public and the employees. Okay, so I want to make sure we're clear on that. And I don't want to be insensitive, but at this point, I do look at numbers, especially from a healthcare perspective, and most of the folks that are dying, unfortunately, are unvaccinated. I'm not necessarily a fan of paying people that didn't get vaccinated to be home. This is, to me, no different than measles, mumps, rubella, right? MMR, because those are required shots to keep everybody else healthy, right? Because California proved that when you don't get your shots, what happens, right? Everybody else gets sick. In addition to what Sam is saying, I would ask that if you're not vaccinated, you don't get paid for being home. Sorry. Now, if you get vaccinated and you get sick, yeah, we're going to pay you because you tried to do the right thing.
That would be the incentive I'd support.
That would be the incentive.
So I need a motion.
Separately or together?
So I think we need to find out.
Ask employees first?
Next
Okay.
meeting, put it back on the agenda, and we'll make that decision.
Yeah, poll the workers, and I'd like to know what our vaccination rate is too. And I it's no secret. People are going to say, well, you can't make them do this, you can't tell them to do that, you can't. This is yes, you can. You can ask them all day long, are you vaccinated? They don't have to tell you. Are they going to tell you the truth? Or, are you going to dig behind them and go to the DPH and say as far behind as they are and say, look up so and so and see if they are? That's not going to happen. But if we're all a family, we're all a family, and I worry about every one of them. and I worry about my family too, and I don't know which one of these or them are coming around. So, you know, I say we find out, you know, what is the temperature of vaccinations, what is the temperature of wearing a mask, and how do we feel about it? Because you're gonna have some way on either side of the middle on it. But I think we need to do what's right by our employees.
All right. Put it on the next meeting.
Fair enough.
All right. Good. All right. We'll move on to old business. We're running late tonight. Matty Wells gym position.
Yes, sir. The last meeting, we talked about having the position that Miss Greta Wood holds at the Matty Wells Gym become a year-long part-time position, not just a seasonal summer position. And her title was gym security worker, and so is LaVon Harris, who works part-time year-round at Matty Wells Gym. And you know, Commissioner Kitchens had a concern about the pay and where the pay was and did it fall into the pay scale and all that. So did some research, spoke with Shannon. Based on their pay, we think, I say we, meaning me and Shannon, their pay is where it belongs. It doesn't need to be changed. They are not getting paid the same, but LaVon has more years in service, and that's why they're not getting paid the same. But the difference between their salaries is not outside the realm of where it should be based on years of service. So we feel the pay is good where it is and shouldn't be changed. Upon Ms. Brody's recommendation at the last meeting, we just want to come and get permission to change the title from gym security worker to gym attendant for both of those positions, LaVon Harris and Ms. Greta Woods. The position that's held, regardless who holds it.
And that gets them on the same playing field, just seniority has one.
Correct, yes, sir.
All right. So well, I make a motion that we change the two position titles to gym attendant, and do we need to make a motion on Ms. Greta's salary?
No, you just need to make a motion that her position become part-time year-long, not just part-time summer.
So we change the position titles to gym attendant and Ms. Greta's position from part-time to full-time year-long
Part-time.
position.
Part-time.
Part-time, year-long position, part-time.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? None, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Mr. Reverend, you got landfill?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. So we have in your packet there, you've got an agreement with Waste Management, and you know, we put this off a while back so that we could have further discussion with them. And so I reached out to them. Unfortunately, it appears that there's not much that we can do here. The rate has gone up to $40 a ton. We have an allotment from, I guess Twiggs County and Wilkinson County have an allotment at that landfill that they don't use every month, and so we purchased some of their excess tonnage, and that is at a much lower rate than we pay Advanced or now Waste Management directly, and so we use that up before we pay the Waste Management rate. So we'll continue to make every effort to do that, but unfortunately, it's not like we've got several landfills that we could pick from or anything like that. We're sort of stuck with that one, and so it would be my recommendation that the board approve this agreement with Advanced Disposal or Waste Management as they're now known.
Any questions for Mr. Reverend?
Yeah, Jason, what do you think, does it have it in here, what do you think the annual cost increase would be, average?
Or percentage even.
I think the current rate is $34 a ton, and this goes to 40.
Significant increase.
It
That's
is.
almost 20%.
Need to utilize recycling to reduce the tonnage going into the landfill.
Mm-hmm.
That will help a lot.
Yeah.
Can we buy more of the unused portion from the other counties?
I can ask that question.
Now, is there a date on this? I mean, a little frustrated with this because I feel like they're having to up the rates to be able to be more competitive. And with their salaries
Oh,
and their
okay.
equipment.
I'm like, wait a
Yeah,
minute.
no, we're more competitive with their salaries. I mean, we all see it. I mean, they're offering $5,000 sign-on bonus for truck drivers.
Yeah. And some
It
ridiculously
appears at our
yearly.
expense.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a business model to run that landfill from day one. I understand prices are up, I understand all that, but it's not up 30-40%. And, you know, I guess it just, it burns me when people know you don't have another option. You know, how many years is this?
It says 12 months in there somewhere.
Yeah,
read
I think
12
it's
months.
just a year-to-year type thing.
I'd tell them we want 9 optional years at the same rate. No increase. Automatic renewals unless we change our mind.
Because we'll be at $50
All right.
in 2 years,
Is that a
3
motion?
years.
That's a motion. And we buy as much excess as we can from the other counties first.
All right, I got a motion. I got a second on that?
Second.
Second. Any more discussion?
I like it.
Worth a try. More cheaper, more better.
Right.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. All right, move on. Matt, you got anything down department head? Great. Jason?
Just quickly going back to the fiber stuff, I think I'd mentioned to you all about maybe hiring a consultant to kind of help us evaluate the Windstream proposal and any proposals from Tri-County. I assume with the board's action earlier tonight, we just want to move on from the Windstream proposal and not worry with talking to a consultant, or?
I just, there's a lot of discussions that need to be had. I love what Tri-County's doing, but we've already got an investment there. You know, do we shoot ourselves in the foot after we've invested money and offer to, you know, apply for other money that's free money, or, you know, I mean, what? This is a lot of, the doors have been open, there's a lot of horses out.
He
Yeah.
did that very politically. I would have just said hell no, so, sorry. I'm good.
I'm good. I mean, when they said that they're willing to try to reach into some of those areas where there's not, and
At the end of the day, all people need to be served as much as possible, where possible, because I know there's a lot of people. I'm gonna take just City of Gray, for instance. Their only option is Windstream. They don't have an option they're not on Tri-County, they're on Georgia Power. And they don't have charter. Their only option is Windstream, and they're lacking. And so I take what the man said, and I look for those people to be served at the end. You know, by the end of the
Yeah.
day, they get served.
I mean, he wasn't cutting nobody out. It looked like everybody's gonna get served. That's what our main goal is.
Absolutely, and that speeds that neither party has done for the decades that they've received money. I've been at my address for 7 years. I can't get anybody to come down my driveway, so I've been on Verizon.
They weren't getting that federal money though. Now they can.
But now that we're clearly partnering with Tri-County, it just makes sense to continue that.
I'm gonna be devil's advocate then, I'm gonna just say it. As much as I appreciate Tri-County and support that 1,000%, again, we have a $5.5 million investment there. What are we getting for $5.5 million? And if somebody says all of our customers served, we just had 2 companies come tell us, for free, I will get all your customers served. So what are we getting for our $5.5 million other than all of our customers served? That warm and fuzzy that they're telling us the truth? Just devil's advocate there.
And trusted partner for over 82 years. How about that?
Have you,
And-
do you know of a consultant?
I've got a conference call in the morning with one that was referred to me, or that I was referred to, I guess.
Would
But
you have us on the next meeting, put it on the agenda item, and that way you and Will can go through your conference call and see what you think.
okay,
That way you can maybe bring a little more light to the board as far as,
Well, if he's not gonna charge anything for, just to sort of tell the board what he could do, we could just put it on the next agenda after you talk to him.
yeah. What I was hoping to be able to get out of the conversation tomorrow was, some type of proposal from them, and an idea what it would cost to engage that consultant
All
to,
right.
to give us some advice on all that.
I'll be honest, I think it'd be one conversation, and that conversation is, are our partners the right ones? Just let us sign it and go.
Yeah.
Because I want that to be the answer. I want that to be that the money we intended from the beginning to be partners with Tri-County. I'm 100% with that. That they are local, they are, employee owned and all that, but we can't overlook the fact that there's $5.5 million that was our money to use any way we wanted to, and we chose to give it to them to make sure that everybody was covered. And now we have a company that says, if you'll just apply for this free money from the federal government, we're gonna give all these people that y'all are got, that don't have coverage now.
But not
So-
all of them, there was some of them they couldn't do, remember?
And
For territorial, but if, it would be anybody that Tri-County didn't cover already without our money, right?
And so, on the Tri-County map, just know that there are gonna be areas there that they get left out. I mean,
And
but
most of those areas would be windstream areas, right?
yeah, so the people that would end up getting completely left out if you didn't do the Windstream thing would be Georgia Power customers that just have Windstream. And I mean, no matter how you do this, I think there's probably going to be some people that get left out. I mean, there are going to be, when you start getting into that Tri-County map, you'll see that, what we tried to do there was find any little pocket of density in the county. And it was not scientific, but I went through over the whole county and, looked for any group of, half dozen houses up to, whatever, and tried to mark those on the map. And so, there are going to be places where you just have one house or just a couple houses down the road that Tri-County doesn't serve now and that aren't included in those areas. You got to stop somewhere, and so probably no matter what you do, there's going to be some people that get left out. I wouldn't want to give the impression that between what Tri-County's doing and then our $5 million on top of it's going to make sure every single household in the county has fast internet. I wouldn't want to give that impression, but we'd certainly get as close as we could. But
So, if Tri-County served all the people they could, and Windstream served all the people they could, would our $5 million fill the gaps at the end of that day?
most of them, I would think, but I don't know that for certain.
Georgia Power
I mean,
filled their gap too of who their Georgia Power when they start serving fiber
That's why I
optic as
wanted
well.
a colo to begin with, so we control it.
All right, the next meeting, we'll put it on the agenda.
Okay.
You can come back with it.
Okay,
Anything else?
that's all I have.
Great. Nothing? Right? Citizen comments? No citizens? Ms. Vaughn, real quick, we got executive session. Got any commissioner comments? I ain't trying to rush you, I'm just.
Real quick, I ain't trying to rush it.
Shannon's fixing to elbow me if I.
I'm good.
Mr. Martin?
Just, we need to bring back some commissioner committees that we talked about earlier to address them on Parks and Regs, Fire Department, Finance, so I want to put that on the agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Wood?
One thing else, I want to make sure Jason and I will have a conversation about the speed bumps inside different streets in Haddock, Orange, Oak, things like that. They are destroyed. I mean, you got bolts sticking up in the road in places, and it's just very cheap plastic. Looks like milk crate material. We need to sit down and look at how many there are and figure out a different material and get those reordered. Because I've walked down through the streets and talked to different residents sitting on the front porch, and they shake their heads at it and say it was not a good purchase from day one, but they need the speed bumps to slow traffic down, and so we need to look at reorder and make sure it's in the budget, funds available for that, and get it fixed, because it's, speed bumps are broken in just every direction with one or two pins hold them in place. So I just want to make sure things are addressed in certain areas of the county.
Speed bump challenge.
You got a speed bump challenge, don't you?
I don't have anything, Chairman.
All right.
Just, hold on, I'm sorry.
I'll give my time to Commissioner Martin.
Thank you. Can we get the complete roads list, because if we're really talking about, you know, $1 million expenditure, let's look at that 20-year road list.
Yeah, well, sure.
All right, thank
I'm
you.
sure you could. If you ask Jason real sweet, I'm sure he'd come up with it. He could.
Thank you.
Ms. Vaughn, I need your help on executive session for personnel tonight.
I make a motion that we dismiss to executive session.
Second.
Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Let's have it.